We made it. It's hockey day. We have made it. Where officially the season is starting in
Okay,
1.5 hours.
I'm going to dispute this because I don't. Okay, the game counts
Mm-hmm.
in the standings.
Right.
But to me, opening day is next Wednesday.
Yeah, I'm not watching.
I mean, I
I'm
don't
watching baseball playoffs over that.
Yeah, screw this. It's like, I mean, it counts. It's 2 points in the standings, but
looks like a nice arena in Prague, but it's in Prague. Like, no,
it's it's Hurdle's home base, right?
I know, not feeling it.
Great,
Yeah, I mean, I listen. I agree. I mean, I think next week when we get into it feels more like, and we're going to be doing more of our predictions next week than we are. We're going to do the Central Division today, but yeah, it's like really just I agree. I mean, I do agree, but at least we have meaningful hockey, and
yeah.
Although it is hard to go back and forth between baseball and hockey for me, like that's like such different vibes.
When we get started, we have breaking news, not big breaking news, but breaking news. So, but Russ, start with the pre-show first.
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to mention is, with the NFL now, since it's a quarterback league, you get stuck watching some really bad quarterbacks because they're old. Ex-favorite Joe Flacco comes to mind. Matt Ryan comes to mind.
And Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson is now heading down there. And these guys are still getting paid way too much money because they understand a playbook. And
he just got a $250 million extension, and he's spent.
Yeah, he's not spent, but he's not nearly as good. And so my issue with this whole thing is, at some point, this league needs to reinvent itself and stop having every team run the West Coast offense and do something different, because I wouldn't want to be paying some of these quarterbacks this kind of money, no matter how much money there is in the league, because it's still a cap league. And for me, I would not go down that path.
Well, the solution might be, because there are teams this year like the Giants who are having some success, even though I don't think it's for real. Atlanta, a few other teams that are going back to a running game, that are like Saquon Barkley is having a great success with the Giants, because, Daniel Jones is not a good quarterback, so they have to run a more conservative offense. And if you don't have a good quarterback, and I was listening to Bill Simmons' podcast, and they went through like the NFC and the AFC, and they think, there are about 18 quarterbacks, which is more than half the league, that are mediocre to crap. And
that's why you have to rethink it. That's just my 2 cents for today.
Yeah, no, it's pretty interesting. I agree. But I'm
not every young quarterback's ready. It takes them years.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a Flacco guy only that he went to the University of Delaware, which is my favorite college football team.
It's not to say that, Russ, that like Zach Wilson can't be good. It's just it's too early in his career to know if he's good, and you have to have players who sort of support him and take the heat off of him.
Yes.
I mean, like, with Daniel Jones, he's been in the league for I think 4 years now. You should know by now if he's good or not, and they don't. They still don't.
Can you guys name 3 other quarterbacks that went to Division II powerhouse University of Delaware that were starting quarterbacks in the NFL? One of them played for the New York Giants. One played
I'm gonna just because it's in my head. Rich Gannon.
Rich Gannon is probably the most famous for sure. He was
MVP, wasn't he?
He was MVP. Yeah, he definitely was the best.
If he went to the Jets, I'm gonna say Glenn Foley, but I don't know where he went to college.
No, Boston.
Glenn Foley's not one of them.
Yeah, he was Boston College. You're
right. You said Giants, right?
Giants and Lions.
Oh, Giants, you said, not Jets. That's right.
Yeah, Giants and Lions. This is right around the beginning of the Phil Sim era, by the way.
It's not Hostetler.
The beginning of the Phil Sim era. This guy was quarterback right before Phil Sim.
Not Joe Pisarcik?
Nope.
What about Rutledge? No,
not Rutledge. He was there in the same era too. Yeah. Everyone, Scott Bruner. Scott Bruner was.
Oh, Scott Bruner! I forgot about.
Oh my
God, he was starting for a little while.
He was Scott Bruner. I remember him. You're right, like number 6 or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Remember 12? I think he was 12.
Was he a 12? I thought.
Yeah, he was 12.
I remember.
And then
who was
one for the Lions is a little bit more obscure, but it's Jeff Comlow. Remember?
Oh, I never would have gotten that.
Yeah, but those are the 4. So Flack, obviously, Flack.
I don't think knows who he is.
I'm surprised I got Rich Gannon, to be honest.
Yeah, no, he's a guy. I've met him a couple times and know him pretty well. He's actually a good guy.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
He was good too.
Yeah, he's a really good guy. He is a really good guy. And I think it's good that he's doing if he's doing broadcasting stuff like that.
He's good as a good broadcaster. Yes.
Yeah, he was a cocky son of a.
I'm sure.
As a football player, definitely. Right. But I saw him play one of the best games I've ever seen a quarterback play in college. Just like Delaware was really good. Delaware is always that was Division I AA at that point, I guess. And they would play Temple, who every year, which was a Division I team. So it was kind of like usually they would get blown out. But Temple one year was, and Temple's not a good Division I team, obviously, ever. But this one year they were in the top 20. And Gannon beat him with a Division I AA team. Gannon had the most incredible football game I've ever watched a quarterback play. I saw it live. It was incredible. Just amazing. He was just unbelievable that day. So here we go. Hello, Hockey World. It is Friday, October 7th, 2022.
I'm Michael Lagello, and today this show is brought to you by Canadian Coke.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Eklund. You're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday to fill you in the comings and goings in the hockey world. And now we are officially, like we said, starting the season. And but we have some breaking news as we sit here.
Yes, Kevin Weeks and Elliot Friedman both report that Mackenzie Wieger has signed an 8-year extension with the Calgary Flames for around $50 million. So now that's 6.25, Russ. And I like him as a defense.
For a non-offensive guy that plays tough minutes, that's
Now,
that's a big price, man.
When that trade was made, I said that I would grade that trade when we knew what Huberdeau and Wieger would do. Huberdeau signs the 8-year deal, so does Wieger. Now, this is the thing about that deal now. Both were overpaid. Huberdeau is making over 10. Now Wieger's making over 6. I think Wieger is a good defenseman. Don't get me wrong. He is not a $6 million defenseman. If you can get what you can get, that's what the open market is for. That's fine. I think he had a knife to Calgary's throat. They had the cap space because of Goudreau and Kachuk walking. And, I mean, he's a good defenseman. Do I think he's their number one, Russ? Do you think Hannafin's better? Do you think
No, Hannafin's better.
Yeah, so, I mean, he's not
maybe.
Well, he adds offense. Is he better defender?
Yeah, it's tough to say overall.
He's not going to be a point guy on the power play.
Very different players.
Yeah.
He's not going to be a point guy in the power play. It's either going to be Anderson or maybe Shillington or I don't know.
I'll say he's pretty unique. Like that. Like that's
He's unique. I'll give you
there's
that.
a lot of Hannafin type players in the NHL. Wieger's not that kind of. Wieger's more of the unique kind of defenseman that's probably harder to get.
Wieger was a good compliment to Ekblad in Florida, and but. Again, I don't know how much of his value was as a compliment to Ekblad and how much.
I don't know, honestly, Mike. There are some people I talk to that think that Ekblad's value is going to be interesting to see without Wieger. I mean, there's that's true too. I mean,
sure.
I mean, Wieger was really good even when every time Ekblad got hurt. Every time Ekblad went down, Wieger picked it up.
But I'll make the comparison that it was right at your front door when Chris Pronger, and I'm not saying Aaron Ekblad is Chris Pronger, but when Chris Pronger was in Philadelphia, who was the guy whose value was inflated beyond ridiculousness was Matt Carl. And then Matt Carl went to Tampa Bay as a free agent, I think it was, and they found out that Matt Carl was Matt Carl. That it was the creation of playing with Chris Pronger. I don't think this is the same thing at all. Well, we'll see. I mean, but it's a risk because I think that locking a guy up for 8 years at 6.25, that's a heavy investment. And I don't know. I wouldn't have done it if it was Calgary, but it was either do that.
I'd give him a 4-year deal. That's it.
Yeah. And
I think what we're seeing here is a lot of the reasons that Wieger's no longer in Florida. Like, that they knew that this was what he was looking for. And this wasn't it. Florida didn't see it. Florida obviously didn't think this he was worth.
I mean, look, Calgary did a nice job of bailing themselves out, but they're going to get right back into cap trouble again.
They are. It's amazing how quickly teams get back into cap trouble.
Yeah, and there's another example. Andrei Markov in Montreal. Mike Komisarek was paired with him. Mike Komisarek was a right-hand shot defenseman. The Leafs signed him, and then they found out Mike Komisarek was not that great.
See, but again, the thing I keep bringing up is like these guys like Carl and Komisarek. They're like that. They're standard kind of like puck-moving defensemen who might be half decent, but not the greatest. Wieger's not that. Like he's much tougher. He's much more defensive.
Oh no! I mean, Carl.
These guys don't often get paid, but
that's
they're
fair. I mean, I'll give you that.
But Komisarek was the more physical of the two. Markov was the puck carrier. Pronger was a unicorn. I mean, he was great offensively and could kick the crap out of you. So you didn't need protection. But there was a history with Pronger going back to Edmonton when he played with Yaro Spacek, and he inflated his value. And then he went, I think, to Buffalo, and they found out he wasn't that good. And Matt Carl. I mean, when you play with good defensemen, that can happen, and it can inflate your value. And I'm not saying Wieger's not good. I'm just saying I need to see him, independent of Ekblad, play well. And if he plays well, then this is a good deal. And if he doesn't play well, then this is an albatross.
Ekblad's not in Pronger's category either. Though.
No. But he's.
I mean, it's just like the Pronger is the only defenseman we have probably right now that's in Pronger's world would be Hedman. Like I think in that he's the only guy that's in that category. I would say I think Pronger and Hedman are pretty comparable.
Well, in different ways, a Makar is, but I mean, he's not a physical force like.
Yeah, he's a different kind.
Hedman. But Hedman is not somebody who's gonna high stick you or cross check you.
Well, he's not dirty, but he can level you. Like
the guy closest to Pronger was probably Chara in his prime because of the physical intimidation.
Yeah, I think maybe, but that's only taking that one aspect. I mean, Pronger was had the puck moving abilities of Hedman, he had the skating abilities of Hedman, both of which were better than Chara.
It's tough to come up with a perfect match, but
I think he's the closest. I mean, he feels like the closest to me. Like there's some guys.
No, I'll give you a match. If you want a match, I would say Kevin Lowe.
To who?
To Wieger.
Wieger.
Yeah.
That's who.
Which is
What is a very important player. Championship team. He was never the guy. He was very solid. So there's a price for that guy, and there's a price where I feel you could price yourself out of that guy.
Right. That's not I mean, it's a tough skill set to find. Right. If he's a shutdown guy, I mean, look at Calgary's defense now. You've got Shillington, but I think he's injured right now. Now you've got Wieger, you've got Hannafin, you've got Rasmus Anderson, you've got Chris Tanev. When he comes back, I think he's still out. They're not spectacular. They got Zadorov, who's a tough SOB. They're not spectacular. They don't have a big offensive defenseman. So point on the power play might be something that's challenging for them. Probably, like I said, probably Rasmus Anderson will be that guy. But they're solid, and they're solid enough, especially in their own zone, to combat Edmonton, because Edmonton is going. Having guys like Tanev and Wieger and Anderson are guys who can shut down the offense.
Yeah, I mean he's like a little bit more offensive than Lowe, but that's a good comparison. And I think that, and Kevin Lowe was really very important to those teams. And the reality is they needed, they needed Kevin Lowe in a big way. I think what Wieger brings, the only thing you worry about with this kind of thing is I always think of the Jay McKee contract, which is like my favorite example of this. Where when a guy who's not like an offensive powerhouse signs to a big number,
it was a shot blocker.
Yeah, they feel that pressure that they've got to now actually put points up, and they've got to do that. And McKee, that kind of messed up Jay McKee pretty good, I thought, back then, because he was really solid. But then the big number, suddenly lost his game as he when he was getting paid all that money. He felt like he had to score. That's the only thing you worry about with a guy like Wieger. But not Wieger has a really he's a real interesting attitude. I think he'll be fine. I think he's like a different kind of guy than McKee was, like a little bit of a nicer guy. Wieger, I think will definitely be. I think it'll be pretty good. All right, so let's get into the Central Division, because we have a hard out today at 1:30, and so this division is really a division of have and have nots. This really, when I look at all the divisions, this one more than any other has really good teams and really bad teams. Probably maybe the two best teams in the league, maybe the two worst teams in the league are in this division.
Well, and them having the two worst teams and the two leading candidates in the Connor Bedard sweepstakes is why I consider the Central the worst division in hockey, which is weird because a couple of years ago it was arguably the best division in hockey. But when you have Arizona, who's doing everything they possibly could do to lose, and Chicago, who probably will end up trading Kane and maybe Taves, I don't know. There are good teams, and you have the Stanley Cup champion in the division. But I'm sorry, it's the worst division in hockey.
I will totally go against you on that one, Mike. Totally.
Okay.
And say this.
I'm shocked.
Yeah. No, I know, but I'll just say that I think the top 6 teams in the Central are better than the top 6 teams in any other division. And I really feel it. I really feel that that's true. Let's say the top 5. Top 5 teams in the Central are better than any top 5 teams in any other division. So I think that, let's go through it. So 8th place, let's start with 8th place. Is this Chicago or Arizona? I'm saying Chicago.
I think
Arizona.
I think it's Arizona because Chicago will have Kane and Taves at least for a while.
Right.
But
yeah, I mean, that's true.
Arizona is as barren as the desert. They're a disgrace of an organization. They really are. And the way they're operating that organization, they're putting them in a 4,000 seat arena, everything that's going on right now.
I mean, they're marketing to college students right now.
Yeah, what was that thing about? They hired some designer. Is that the guy who's going to be on their jersey or something?
I don't know.
But here's the thing about that, and I've said it before, like all the things you're saying are like, they're from a PR perspective and from all that perspective, but they're also the kind of things that when you get everybody against you, a team can rally and be better. I believe that's why I think Arizona has the potential to be better than we think they're going to be. I still think they're 7th. I mean, I'm not saying they're going to be great, but I think that I just have a weird feeling that they're going to get out to a quick start and that people are going to be shocked by it. They're going to have
the road. They're on the road for 20 games.
Yeah, I know. And that's crazy for sure. But I just have this weird
crazier thing, so that's fine.
I don't know. To me, I'm putting them in 7th place. I'm not like saying they're going to win the division. I'm just saying that they're going to be better than Chicago.
It's not even worth my oxygen.
Yeah.
I think they're better than Chicago. I think they're better than Chicago because of the fact that there's this weird thing that's going to surround when they get into that small arena. I think that's going to be a hard place to play for people. I think it's going to be fun.
Once they trade Chychrun, there's not much there.
No, I know.
And that's the thing. It's like, I mean, that's why. I both are in the Bedard, Mishkov, Fantilli sweepstakes.
Right.
You can't guarantee yourself Bedard, but they're going to try their level best. And the thing is that if these teams get off to slow starts, and they likely will, I was at an event last night with Jeff Merrick and Elliot Friedman, and Friedman was basically saying if the Coyotes or the Blackhawks get off to like a 2-8 start, they'll start dumping immediately. They won't wait until the deadline. They'll start trading Chychrun. They might start making potential trades for, or at least putting Kane out there, or potentially like we're shopping him. It may happen early. It may not happen at the deadline because that's after 60 games. They'd be trading him before the first half of the season. That's how bad these organizations are.
The problem is that if they want to get the most they can for Kane, they got to wait.
Maybe.
And that's and what they get for Kane and what is going to really matter to them a lot. That's going to be a big. That's a franchise trade that you have to make. That's a big time trade. You got to get a lot for him. Okay, so
I feel sorry for Lawson Krause and somebody in the chat said Clayton Keller and Nick Schmal. They're like they're 5-6 really good players, and there's some kids with some talent, but the organization has really set them up to fail, and that's
getting paid. So
yeah, that's true. Okay, continue.
That's true. All right, so number 5. So obviously you guys you have Arizona and you have Chicago in 7.
It's interchangeable. 7-8. It's right. I have Arizona, Chicago 8-7. So does Russ.
Right.
You have to flip.
I have the opposite of that. 6 is Winnipeg. To me, it's pretty clearly Winnipeg. I think that they're the only tweener team in this division to me that's like not really going for it, and not really tanking. they're kind of in the middle. There aren't that many tweener teams this year. There aren't that many tweener teams this year. Like it feels like that there's either teams that are kind of going for it, even if you don't think they're good enough to go for it, they're going for it. But
they're in the middle. But the thing is, I mean, as we saw with the whole Blake Wheeler being stripped of the captaincy, and
right,
I mean, there is a potential there for them to not to get down to Bedard area, but to maybe strip it down. There's a lot of speculation that Wheeler probably will end up getting traded either this year or maybe in the offseason. I think he's got a year left after this year.
Yeah.
Russ, they're really dependent on guys like Cole Perfetti coming through. And, Hellebuck could have a better year and make them more competitive. But I don't think
bonus is going to fire them up to the point where I'm going to put them ahead of Nashville because I don't believe in Nashville's goaltending. And still, what if last year was Nashville's last gasp before they start going the other way, which is going to happen one of these years. We all know that. So I'm going that way. I'm going to say Winnipeg gets this one moment where, bonus could have an impact on them. Maybe Hellebuck does get hot. I do like Perfetti. I don't love this team, but I'm just putting them ahead of Nashville.
Okay, so you would have them in 5 and Nashville in 6.
Yeah, and I have flip flopped. I have Winnipeg in 6 and Nashville in 5. I don't trust Saros yet. I think last year may have been smoke and mirrors. If he plays as well, if he has .915 save percentage this year, then I'll eat my hat because then I'll have to admit that he's better than we expected him to be. With Nashville though, I think the one thing is they brought in McDonough. Mm-hmm. Solidified their defense. They brought in Niederreiter.
Solidify their defense, but again, how much defense other than Yossi? He's going to have to be Superman again on the blue line there.
Well, I mean, they have Ekholm, they have Fabro. I mean, their defense.
These are not all high offensive guys except for Yossi.
Right. Well, I mean, McDonough's not a 40-point guy
anymore. No.
But then neither is Ekholm. He's more of a shutdown guy. Carrier is not, had showed something last year as sort of an older.
They're a mishmash of young and old, and I don't think it's great.
And I will talk about Nashville when I get to them in the standings, but I'm not there yet.
Wow.
Okay.
So I'm going to put the writer up front was a good ad, but I think they're 5th. But okay, so who do you have 6th then?
No, 6. Well, 6 I have Winnipeg.
Okay.
5th I have Dallas. And this is hard because Dallas. That's why I say Dallas. The top 5 teams in this division are the best top 5 teams in any division. There's no other team. There's no other division that can go this deep with 5 teams. If you just take the 5 teams from the top 5 from each division, those are the divisions. Take away the bottom teams. This is the best division in hockey. There's no question about it. Like in my mind,
I mean that's what
I mean, and we'll talk about why. But the Dallas Stars. Listen, I mean they're going to be really good. It's hard to find anything wrong with them. They sit there and Robert. They got their guy in. They got their guy signed. I love Mason Marchment. We talked about that. I think that's a great signing. I think it's going to help them a lot. Obviously, their goaltending. If he can do what he did last year in the playoffs and continue going, they've got like a mini Carey Price going. A lot. Wow. They're a good team. They could finish as high as 3rd. But I think that they're going to finish in 5th. And but I wouldn't. I was really tempted to put them in 4th, but
that's where I have them. I have them in 4th.
Me, they're 5th.
Yeah, I have them in 4th and making the playoffs.
I have them 5th and I think making the playoffs. I haven't decided on that yet.
Russ, where do you have Dallas 4th?
I have them 4th. I do feel like Niels Lundqvist is going to have a good year for them. I don't think he got a real great shot in New York, but that's the way it goes. They do have a lot of defensemen. I get it. I think, I believe in Ottinger. I believe Seguin will give more than he even gave last year. Ben, I'm not sure of.
Yeah.
If Hintz can stay healthy, he's always a guy that gives them offense early in the season, especially, and then a lot of times tails off.
The key is Pavelski. I mean,
Pavelski is a big key because, we were worried 2 years ago. Then he was like shot out of a cannon. Pavelski could have a big impact, but their defense is good, not great. Their offense is good, not great. If they get great goaltending, then they could make the playoffs. But right now, I'm going to put them 4th.
And apparently, they have a goaltending dilemma because Khudobin is healthy, so they have 3 goalies. Yeah. And they're not going to waive Wedgwood because he'd get claimed in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
But the thing is with Khudobin, if you waive him, you only bury a little over $1 million of his $3.3 million contract. So,
I wonder if Ottawa would take a shot at Khudobin. I wonder right now.
They like Forsberg.
Yeah, they like Forsberg, but with the Talbot out for a while, I would consider.
Yeah, they're not going to spend that much on. I don't think they would do it.
No, that's why they picked up Hellberg because they'll sit on Forsberg and let him play a bunch of games and play Hellberg every once in a while and get through it until Talbot comes back, but it could be. They said
That
it
could be why they don't make the playoffs, though. Like if they were to get another solid, if they need a backup that can win them games. Like they were not, else they're not making the playoffs. So that's where Ottawa is. So that's like the question in my opinion. All right, so number 4, I have the Minnesota Wild, and the Wild are. I'm worried about the Wild. I almost put the Wild in 5th behind Dallas. When I say I almost moved Dallas up to 4, I'm worried about the Wild in some ways. Like I think that.
What are you worried about?
Yeah.
I mean, they lost. They lose a player, right, in Fiala, right?
Yeah.
But he was a really good player for them. I mean, he wasn't like
he had a career year, and he was a really good player. No question.
He really was. They in the playoffs looked lost, last year. Marc-Andre Fleury, I'm a huge fan of Marc-Andre Fleury, but is he ready to carry a team? Is he still able to carry a team? They're really counting on him to carry this team throughout the whole season. Like I love him as a playoff goalie, but in the playoffs last year, he had he had his ups and downs too. They just did not look good at all against the Blues. They are, they're tough. They're a tough team. They're good, and I like a lot of their players. And I really think that they have, in Kaprizov, maybe my favorite player in the NHL. But
you still haven't talked me out of why they're bad.
Yeah,
I'm not calling them bad. Again, I said
why they're in that spot.
Yeah, why I think they're in that spot is because I think the 3 teams above them are deeper and have more going. I think that
Nashville's deeper than Minnesota.
Yeah, let's go to Nashville for a second. Okay, so because they're my 3rd. Okay, they're number 3. Okay, so they're number 3 for me.
Okay.
But you guys
match them up at center, you're going to lose that battle.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, really am I? Okay, so let's look at the Predators. Let's look at the lineup that's going today for the Predators. Okay.
Okay.
Granlund centering Forsberg and Duchesne. That's a really solid first line. Obviously,
Granlund is a number 1 solid.
Their number one center is Ryan Johansson.
Yeah, but he's not on their top line. So there's another thing about the 4 lines the Predators have is that the depth of these 4 lines is pretty impressive to me. Johansson is the second line. Then he's centering Niederreiter, who I think is going to be a really good Predator. Like I think he is
good.
Yeah,
I think he is a real good fit for them. And Sherwood, who is I'm not so sure. Kiefer Sherwood is projected today to be their second line center.
That's not.
Not that's a weak spot for sure. Third line, Colton Sissons, who I like. You guys know that, but I think that he's the third line center, but he's centering Jeannot and Trennan, 2 wingers who I really like. 2 young guys.
That's a crash and bang line.
It's a crash and bang line if you ever heard one, but that can score. Like Jeannot can score, Sissons can score. And their fourth line, they kind of have put together like almost a Rangers-esque kid line in Cody Glass, Eli Tovanin, and Cole Smith, right? They have like a really
but
you're not
those are 4 lines. Those are 4 NHL lines that are really legitimate.
All right, so I'm going to tell you the 4 centers for the Wild. You got Ryan Hartman, Eriksson Ek, Freddie Gaudreau, and Tyson Jost. I would take them over them simply because, like, even a guy like Freddie Gaudreau is like completely playoff and NHL tested. And Jost, I think, actually is poised to have a really good year. He looked great in preseason.
Yeah, and
is it a big win? No, I think it's only a slight win or a draw.
Slight win. Yeah, I think it's a slight win.
But here's the other thing. So then if you go wingers, Kaprizov and Zuccarello, there's nobody on Nashville that even gets close to them.
Well, Forsberg gets close to that.
No, on a line. Like that line, if it's Hartman, Kaprizov, Zuccarello,
Forsberg and Duchesne.
They're going to score more points than the Forsberg and Duchesne line, yes.
But they're legitimate.
That's a legitimate line. No question. But they're going to score more points than that line.
Maybe. I don't know. That'll be an interesting bet. I'd like to follow. We'll track that through the year.
But you're forgetting 2 guys on Nashville. One Russ has talked about in Philip Tomasino, who
who I would rather have in there, but he's not playing today.
I would have in there instead of Smith, but whatever. That's me.
I agree. I don't know why he's not playing today.
Yeah, but again,
let's move to his defense for a second because I don't want to.
All right, defense. It's
defense. Yossi and Carrier. Carrier's really good. Carrier's underrated big time. Yossi is obviously Yossi.
Yeah.
McDonough and Ekholm as a second pairing. It's really good second pairing. And then you have Fabro and Jeremy Lazan.
All right, so I think overall Minnesota's is slightly better, although Yossi is the greatest defenseman compared to anybody.
I think Minnesota's top four is better. Spurgeon, Brodin, Dumba,
and Middleton.
And then
you have Kulikov and Merrill.
Yeah, their bottom pairing is a little.
Kulikov's pretty damn good.
Goligoski is in there.
I think their bottom pairing is a wash, but I think the best defenseman is on the Predators. And then I'll give you the top four of Minnesota being a little bit better than the top four of the Predators. But then the Predators have the better goalie. I mean, at the end of the day, like Saros.
No. See that? Okay,
do they?
I think Saros is better. Yes, I do. And a consistent, like if I was to have one game, I want Marc-Andre Fleury in there. But over the course of the season, over the course of the season, I'm going with Saros. He showed last year what he can do over the course of a season. I mean, people were talking about him as a possible Vezina contender. Like people weren't talking about that with Marc-Andre Fleury last year. I think he showed what he could do.
And Minnesota's got the better rookies in there, young players with Rossi and Boldie. I mean, they could have a real impact.
They could.
I mean, Boldie already had an impact.
No, I think I want to see what Cody Glass and Toivonen can do. To me, that's a little bit like the Lafreniere.
They're decent rookies, or young players rather, but they're not even close to Boldie and Rossi. They're not.
But to sit here and say that Nashville is clearly not as good as Minnesota
they're not.
I don't think. But we just went player for player, and you didn't. And it was
Anaheim. I made a mistake. Sorry,
it was Goligoski.
It was Goligoski. I looked on the wrong list on that one. My bad.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Goligoski is an upgrade, so it's fine.
Okay, right. So I mean, to me, there are definitely guys I would definitely rather have Tomasino in the lineup. I don't know why he's not in the lineup, but maybe he's hurt or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe
it's close though. I will give it to you. It's close. I still would fall on.
And I follow the Predators, as you guys know.
Minnesota's my 3, regardless. That's where I fall.
Same here.
This is the deepest Predators team since they went to the Cup.
No, it's not.
It is. No, there's no question.
It has good names. That's what it has. You have names that you're expecting Duchesne to do something again. You're expecting Johansson to do something.
I'm never expecting Johansson to do something. Let's be clear about that.
All right.
I can't stand Ryan Johansson. I don't think
expecting Granlund to be a first line center, which he is not.
Last year he was.
Yeah, he wasn't. And
he put up serious points last year.
He had a lot of assists. Yes.
Tons of points last year.
It doesn't mean he does all the other things that a first line center should do. Otherwise, they'd have gone further.
Teams never had a Jeannot type player. There's the teams.
That's fine. I mean, Jeannot is a really good player.
They never had that kind of player. They never had a fourth line with this kind of skill. Fourth line.
I'll see your Jeannot and I'll raise you Jordan Greenway and Matthew Boldie.
Yeah, I mean,
I like Jeannot, and he's he came out of nowhere.
I think Jeannot over either of those guys.
Oh my God! Please. Jordan Greenway is a nightmare. He's a physical. I mean, that's the one thing about Minnesota. In the middle of their lineup, you've got Greenway, you've got Boldie, you've got Marcus Foligno. They've got guys who will literally beat the crap out of you along the boards and with their fists. And they're
Jeannot's the best fighter and one of the best fighters in the league. Niederreiter is another total X factor that gives this team another level.
Niederreiter was added to Nashville to counteract what Minnesota can do,
right?
What St. Louis can do.
I don't disagree with that
because of that Greenway. But McDonough, if they get 60 games out of him, I think that's a lot. He played 71 last year. He's been getting more banged up every year. He's a really good player when he's out there. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But at 33, he has a lot of mileage.
Well, no, he does, and if he's hurt, I'm just saying on paper, healthy wise. And I think McDonough, could have a nice rebirth in Nashville. It's a fun place to play. Like people, I could see him going there and having a better time than he probably even expects to go.
But knowing how Tampa makes moves a day before instead of a day after, they probably saw the meter on Ryan McDonough running close to empty and got rid of him before. He hit the wall.
Well, I watched the Stanley Cup close up. I was there and I saw a different Ryan McDonough. I did.
You think he's getting old?
Yeah, I just think he's getting older, and I think that he still makes really smart plays. I think the foot speed's a little less. The physicality is still there, But the durability now, I think, is starting to wane a little. If you look at him the last few years, he has had injuries.
Yeah. Okay. So that's why, when I look at the three teams, which I think are clearly the third, 3, 4, and 5, I think it's clearly, Dallas, Nashville, and Minnesota. Like those three, to me, those are the three teams that are in there. Where do you have as your 3, 4, 5?
My 3, 4, 5 is Minnesota, Dallas, Nashville.
Right.
Minnesota, Dallas, Nashville.
Right. And so I think that, so we kind of talked about all three of those teams now pretty well. So to me it's just Nashville, Minnesota, Dallas. I think they could finish in any order. To be honest, I think those three teams could finish in any order. They're all pretty close. I think Dallas, if I was to, I would really like I said, really close to putting Dallas over Minnesota. Every other day I might change my mind on that one. Dallas and Minnesota are so close to me. I'm really worried about Minnesota though. So the top, and then we have number 2.
St. Louis. St. Louis.
St. Louis.
Yes.
Yep. Russ, St. Louis is number 2.
St. Louis.
Yeah, I'm going Colorado. And only because
Come on.
No, and here's why. I went back and I really wanted to see. I really thought about this. I went back and I watched a lot of that playoff series these two teams had against each other last year, just to see what it was about. Like they had a hell of a series. It was a really good series.
Yeah.
And I watched it yesterday a bunch of games. Like I went through the games pretty quickly, but I watched it. You remember how that went? How that series went?
Yeah, it was 2-2 until Nazem Kadri.
Right. So it's 2-2 Nazem Kadri, but
projectiled Kali Rosen into Jordan Binnington. He did a Chris Kreider.
Right. And that turns so when Binnington comes out, that turns the series to a degree, because Binnington, remember, had just gotten back and was really just playing it at his Stanley Cup level again. Like he was back. Binnington was back in a big way. They lose. They managed to win game 5, and then in that series, which is the first one that Husso won. And then in game 6, remember there's like there's an incredible moment in game 6 where it's tied up. The Blues are pressuring late in the game to win it, and the goalie and Colorado's goalie's out of position, and they have an open net, and Manson plays goalie and maybe blocks a shot. He's just standing in goal, like literally,
Yeah, I remember that.
Kemper's off to the side. Manson makes the save, and then with just seconds to go, Colorado scores to win the series, and which could have gone back to game 7 if that the other way. It was like that was as close. That was how close that was to going to a game 7. And to me, I like to go with the motivation in a regular season. I'm not going to tell you that I think that Colorado isn't going to come out of this division in the playoffs, because I do. But I just think as far as regular season goes, the Stars have a little bit more to prove, and I think they are better than
not the Stars, the Blues. You mean
the Blues? I'm sorry, the Blues have more to prove, and the Blues, and then than the regular season. And again, I am not 100% yet on the Georgiev bandwagon, who apparently is who they're going to be as their number 1.
Yeah, but I'll say this: they will go with Georgiev, who I think will be fine. If he's not fine, they'll get someone at the deadline. They have money.
Oh yeah, and they're going to make the playoffs. But my question is, can they beat out the Blues in the regular season, where the Blues are?
I don't think it matters.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. But we're predicting it, So
right, I'm going to say they can, but I don't think it matters.
Yeah, to me, I think they won't. But I'm not saying it matters. Again, like I think they'll win in the playoffs. But I think that right here, I think that regular season, the Blues have to be considered a serious threat to take that division, and no one is talking about it. Like, to me, it's amazing how no one wants to put St. Louis there.
Well, the one thing I'll say for sure is,
Mike, you okay?
Yeah, I think you were putting them to sleep.
You look like you were drifting off. Sorry. Make sure you're okay.
Your eyes did go a little. But anyhow, Drew Doughty did just say that Makar, he got interviewed by Linda Cohn, and he said that Makar is the most dangerous defenseman in the league, and he is.
Yeah.
I don't even think it's close.
No, I think he's the best defenseman since Bobby Orr.
There, I'm splashing water on my face. There, is that
you might need something, Mike.
No, I'm fine. I was just
okay. We can go back.
I just watched your eyes slowly closing as I was talking.
We did. We both saw it.
I was meditating.
Okay.
So, Mike, you think that there's no way St. Louis wins the division?
I think there's a way if there's like a serious injury with McKinnon or Makar or something like that. Colorado is the class of this division. Do they need to finish in first place? No. Will they finish in first place? Yes, because they're the best team in the division. They're deep. They're talented. They've won a cup. They've tasted it. Now I think they're just going to roll, not roll over. They're not going to win the division by 20 points. They're the best team. So like I say, St. Louis can have all the motivation that they want. They'll get more motivated when they play Calgary in Calgary, because Calgary's no longer in Colorado, so it doesn't matter.
Just to add to David, Mike isn't bored. It was like he was Teddy Ruxpin and he had the battery pulled for a second, and then the battery went back.
That is what it felt like. Exactly. No, I listen. They are the best team, but I don't think that. We have seen many times when Stanley Cup champions don't come back and win the division the next year. Like and yet they're still competitive, So to me, I think that they're going to be good in this. But the reality is, I think St. Louis is one of the top 3 teams in the league. Like
they're a great team. They are.
I'm not saying they're not. They're just Colorado's better.
So to me, the top 3 teams in the league are Colorado, St. Louis, and Toronto.
Oh my God! Would you come on?
No, they're not.
Here we go. He's propping up the Leafs, so when they play mediocre, they can collapse.
With Matt Murray in there, you're going to put them top 3 in the league.
Stop it!
No,
that's a troll. That's a troll job.
I was really just kidding around, Mike. I'm not quite putting him there. I'm really just joking around because if they had kept Campbell, yes. Honestly, I will tell you right now.
No, they'd be worse.
No, if they had kept Campbell, they're a top 3.
Hold on, we have to examine something here. This heel turn that Mike has taken with Campbell is unbelievable.
It is.
Like every moment you talk about him now, Mike says he'll be worse than Murray.
Coming up with this? Because you guys are friggin' putting him on Mount Olympus.
No, but where are you coming up with he'll be worse than Murray? Like I don't understand that.
Yeah. What possible evidence do you have about that?
The only impediment with Matt Murray, and it's a big one, it's a big roadblock, is his health. If he's healthy, he's a better goalie than Jack Campbell. He is.
When was the last time he was a better goalie than Jack Campbell?
Oh, 2018, 2019.
Right, I mean, it's a long time ago.
The 2 years in Ottawa were an absolute unmitigated friggin' disaster for Matt Murray.
Right.
Now, talk about motivation here, Ak. Matt Murray is motivated. Now, does that mean anything in terms of him staying healthy? No. I'm just saying, if I were the Leafs, I would not have spent $5 million on Jack Campbell because, Jack Campbell, again, didn't play well after December 1st and didn't make a difference in the playoffs. But he's an upgrade for Edmonton. So it was a good move for Edmonton, and I think it was a good move for Toronto because I don't think Jack Campbell was going to be a difference maker in Toronto, whereas Matt Murray might. And, that's all I'm saying. But getting back to the Central Division, like Colorado, and it's not based just on them winning a cup. You look at that lineup 1 through 23, and it's a better lineup than the Blues. Are the Blues not bad? Are the Blues good? Yes, they're very good. I think they're probably second or third best in the West.
But here's something that we need to talk about. I didn't know about this. I don't know if Mike knew about this. Somebody named Jen posted this and said that Curtis Sanford had Matt Murray wearing goggles in training camp designed with blinders to reduce peripheral vision as a puck tracking technique.
That is something that they do. I've actually done that technique.
Yeah, this is an interesting thing.
I like it a lot. I've done it in soccer, as actually with soccer.
What is the benefit of having your peripheral vision blocked?
It's about anticipation, right? So it's about it's all about goaltending is all about anticipating where the play is heading and stuff like that. Right. So you have to anticipate that much more if you don't have peripheral vision. So it's kind of like a donut on a bat sort of thing. Like you take that away, now you have a little bit more information. It's easier, but if you learn how to do it without that information, it's really good. They also make these glasses that I've seen hockey players use, and we use it in soccer too when I was coach. That the block out so that there's like a thing like this you can't see down.
Right.
So you have to handle the puck or without looking down ever. Which is kind of it's a cool and that's a cool thing. I mean,
I guess if you get the feel for it, you don't have to.
Yeah, once you have the puck on your stick, if you're an NHL player, you shouldn't look down at all. So
I don't know what that's like.
Yeah, right. I wouldn't know that either. So, but clearly, you have your head up, right?
That's
So
interesting. See, so I didn't know this, so I'm glad I saw that on Twitter.
yeah, they definitely do that. And it's something really good. So since we have a couple more minutes here, I want to go through this experiment that we were just talking about because I think it's kind of a fun one. The top 5 teams in each division, and tell me which. Let's think about who the top 5 teams are and what division has the best top 5 teams. Because I think it's hard to beat this division. So let's go to the Atlantic for a second. Okay, so
Toronto, Tampa, Florida, Boston, Ottawa.
Right? They'll go with those 5.
A good division. It's a very good division.
Yes, I think it's better than the Central.
Why? No one's better than Colorado.
But Tampa's close.
Are they?
Yes. Florida.
Yeah, I mean, we have to say they are because they still have enough there.
Florida
now that I think we're going to wonder about again.
Yeah, Florida.
We're definitely worried about Florida.
Florida is right now is the reigning President's Trophy winner. So and Toronto. I mean, you just said one of the best teams in hockey. So there you go.
No, I'll give Toronto and St. Louis and cancel them out because I think they're similar. Okay. I think Colorado is better than Tampa.
You think Florida
is better than Nashville, or Florida is better than Minnesota, or Florida is better than Dallas?
Yeah, I mean, right now we have to say they are, I suppose.
Right, we have to say they are, but we're not sure, and I'm with you on that. 100% with you. But then the bottom,
I'm going to give it the Atlantic a slight edge, but it's closer than it used to be.
Yeah. I think Dallas, Minnesota, and Nashville are way better bottom 3 teams than Florida,
Boston,
Florida, Ottawa, and Boston. Like I think Florida, Ottawa, and Boston are not nearly at the level of Dallas, Minnesota, and Nashville. And in the top, you have Colorado's better. So if Colorado's better, and then the second place teams are, if you wash out St. Louis and Toronto, so they already have it with Colorado being better. If Colorado's better, here we go. Colorado's better than Tampa, more than the bottom 3 teams or better than the bottom 3 teams in the other division. Then they have it. Then the Central has it.
Yeah, I'm still sticking with the Atlantic, but barely.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go to the Metro.
Yeah, Carolina, Columbus, Rangers, Pittsburgh,
Islanders.
You know, it's funny in out in the wild with fans and otherwise, they see the Atlantic, the Metro is slipping, but I still think teams are so close in talent, like Pittsburgh and Washington. They're pretty much playoff teams unless they prove otherwise, and very close in talent. And Rangers and Carolina are very close in talent, but there's a gap. There's a gap for those 2 and then the other 2. I acknowledge that.
Yeah, I agree. I
don't think that be a playoff team, like we always say, and if they got goaltending. So
right. So
it makes it a very dangerous division, but maybe they're not the strongest one this year as a result.
But if you just look at those top 5 teams for a second, compare those top 5 to the top 5,
and the Islanders are there probably before the Devils anyhow. So.
Right, the Islanders are there. Columbus. Would you rather have Columbus or Dallas? Say.
I would take Dallas at the moment.
Right, so they're the better 4th team. If you're going to put Nashville in 5th, would you rather have Nashville or the Islanders?
I would take the Islanders over Nashville.
Yeah, I wouldn't. No, I don't know. I don't think I would.
Well, the goalie is better.
Right,
the goalie's better for sure, but
the defense.
If you put Minnesota versus the Islanders, you take Minnesota over the Islanders.
I would take Minnesota.
Yeah, the goalie is better. The defense is better. The offense is not. Islanders, Nashville.
So then the 3rd place team would be, who was the 3rd place team again?
In where? In the Metro?
The Capitals. So the Capitals. Will you take the Capitals over the Wild? Oh, you have Capitals in 2nd?
Carolina, Columbus, Rangers, Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I've lost you. You're breaking up.
Mike.
Yeah, we can't hear you, Mike, for a second. Mike's gone into another dimension. I think
log out, log back in.
Yeah, log out, log back in. I don't know if Mike is trying to say that he thinks Columbus is 2nd in the division, but
I don't even want to pretend what Mike is saying.
Mike?
No.
Mike is no. All right, he's gone.
All right. So what was the choice again?
Columbus, all right, so we're gonna go Washington or Minnesota.
I guess I would take Minnesota over Washington.
Okay, right. So now you're going to go the Rangers or St. Louis.
Another tough one. I am going to take the Rangers over St. Louis, but just barely.
Close, barely, I think. Colorado or Carolina.
Colorado.
So I think I
But
think
it's close. I mean, Carolina, if they did everything right, it's really close.
Yeah, but I think that. So I think that in general, there, the Metro didn't hold up to the Central. Now, would the Metro hold up to the Atlantic? So let's go. We hear you now, yeah. So
internet problem. I don't know what's going on.
Okay, yeah. So would the Metro hold up to the?
Yeah, the Metro versus the Atlantic is a good one because
right. That is. So the top team, let's say, let's just go for the hell of it. Let's put Tampa.
Tampa versus Carolina. Tampa's better.
Right. I think the Atlantic's better than the Metro in general. Like I think that's going to be.
Yeah, I'm going to give the Atlantic a slight edge.
Yes.
So let's go the Metro versus the Central now. That's like that. No, the Atlantic versus the Central. No, the Metro versus the Central. Right. That's what.
Yeah, the Metro versus the Central.
So Carolina or
Colorado wins. Colorado beats Carolina.
But we just did that one. Sorry, we just did that one. We decided the Metro wasn't.
You never did the Pacific.
Yeah.
Let's go to the Pacific. Okay, so top 5 teams in the Pacific. Okay.
Calgary, Edmonton, Vegas, Vancouver, LA.
Okay. All right.
Those are good teams. I mean,
good teams, but I don't think they're at the level of the Central.
A couple of them are, but
like
as a whole,
Calgary's the top. You think Calgary's the top, right? I think Edmonton's the top team.
As a whole, it's very good.
Well, Colorado destroys Edmonton as we saw in the playoffs last year. So
and Colorado would beat up on Calgary too. So
I think
St. Louis.
I think Calgary is going to end up winning the division over Edmonton because they're better defensively.
I'm going to give the Central the edge over the Pacific. I am.
Yes,
okay.
I think so.
All right, so now we're bound to basically a toss-up between the Central and the Atlantic. Right, and I think it's really close, and I think that so it's easy. So, Mike, you were sitting and saying this is the worst division in hockey, right? So,
which the Central?
Yeah, that's what you said.
I know. I mean, maybe the Pacific edges them out as the worst, but because LA and Vancouver are still sort of in a state of flux. But I don't think that they're the best. I don't think it's the best division in hockey. No way. Especially when you take the balance of the division and you have the 2 worst teams.
I agree. I agree with you. It's
that's the only problem with the West, with the Central is the bottom is the real bad bottom.
Oh yeah, no, they've got 2 of the 3 worst teams, right? So that Montreal being the 3rd, the 3 teams that no one thinks is going to do anything, right? So
and that's what hurts them.
Yeah, that definitely hurts them. But the Atlantic also has Montreal, so you got to take that into account.
That's only one bad team that they're not as bad as the other 2. Even I don't think.
I mean, I may have to go even so deeper in the Atlantic. You may have to go like Winnipeg versus Buffalo.
Yeah, I would take Winnipeg.
Yeah,
take Winnipeg. Winnipeg versus Detroit.
I'll take Winnipeg.
Yeah, so Winnipeg. So they've got the top 6. So if you go to the top 6 teams in that division, it probably becomes the Central. The Central probably has the better top 6.
But okay,
yeah, the Central I think wins it for the top 6.
I understand what we're doing for the sake of a discussion, but the thing is, when we're talking about the division, it's everybody. It's all 8,
right?
And that's why the Central is probably the worst of the 4 divisions because you can't overcome the 2 train wrecks.
No, I mean that's what kills them is the bottom.
Coyotes. Now in the Atlantic, the
Atlantic has one train train wreck.
Right, they do. But the thing is, okay, they're not purposely trying to tank. Chicago and Arizona are. Montreal's trying to accumulate talent. They've already tanked. They already got Slavkovsky. Now, would they love to get Bedard? Of course they would. But nobody else in the Atlantic Division is as bad as either Arizona or Chicago. Buffalo's coming up. Detroit's building up. Ottawa's building up. That's why the Central is those last 2 teams. They're like flame retardant on the rest of the division.
I'm going Atlantic, Central. Yeah, the Atlantic. Yeah, the Central, the Metro, and then the Pacific.
I'm going Atlantic, Metro, Pacific, Central.
Yeah, I just think that I don't think that you can take just 2 teams and destroy your division when the 6
Well, it
teams.
helps to destroy it. It doesn't.
It does help to destroy it, but the top 6 teams are better than the top 6 in any other division.
Yeah.
You've got 6 teams that are better than any other 6 teams in any other division.
Again, we're inventing a mechanism here.
Right.
Yeah, we're trying to define worst division. I mean, to me,
and this is my problem with the Metro. There's no super team in the Metro. The best team is the Rangers or Carolina, and Carolina every year fails in the playoffs for the same reasons.
Right.
So it's kind of like I can't put them as a super team either.
The Rangers are the closest. The Rangers are the closest.
Carolina is basically the San Jose Sharks of yesteryear. Yeah. And they always have the talent. They get a certain point, and then they, that's it. They stop.
But like I was saying, we're inventing a mechanism here, excising the 2 worst teams in that division for the purpose of.
Yeah, you can't do that either.
Yeah, here's why we can do that. Here's why we can. Okay, and I agree with you. Here's why we can, because to me, this is what determines what's the best division in hockey, the hardest division to make the playoffs in. I'm gonna say that the hardest division.
Well, I mean, the Metro is still going to be hard to make the playoffs because all the teams, like I said, there's 2 in the top that are really close. There's 2 in the middle that are really close, and then the Devils are really close, and the Islanders are really close. So there's teams that are very close to each other that is going to make it a very good race. So
and that closeness is probably going to eliminate that division getting 2 wild cards. It'll
probably will
4 and 4 again.
But you're not. You might have 5 in the Central. You might have 5 wild cards in the Central. It's possible, but chances are you won't. And so that means that one of those top 5 teams we talked about is not going to make the playoffs. You guys think it's going to be Nashville, like for example, but I think it could be Dallas or Minnesota. But yeah, to me when I look at also the other thing you can tell by how tough a division is, how hard is the 2-3 matchup? Like what's another way you can judge it? How hard.
I mean, again, this brings up the debate from last year, which again is the folly that is the NHL's current playoff setup, because it should be conference. It should be the division winners 1, 2, and then the best 6 records in order, instead of 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3, and that's stupid. It's like,
that's
okay.
True, but I think getting out. I think again you have the 2-3 of the Atlantic and the 2-3 of the Central are by far harder than the 2-3 of either other division.
Here's what I want to say. I just found an old tweet last season from Carolina where they put up a picture with a brick wall and said it was Freddie Anderson. He's a brick wall, but the mortar is starting to really get away, and so the brick wall's there, but it's crumbling.
No, Russ, it's a brick wall, and the Kool-Aid guy is going to break through it.
That's hilarious. I love it. Reminds me of the story I just heard about. There's a space called Storyland in California, not Storybook Land in New Jersey, but Storyland.
Oh, not Storybook Land. Okay.
Storybook Land in New Jersey is a fun place. Storyland is the same kind of thing. It's like a fairy tale place for little children.
Right.
Well, Humpty Dumpty's up on this big wall and literally fell and broke yesterday. So the Humpty Dumpty fell off the wall and broke into a lot of pieces. Literally life replaying. Anyway, remember Without the Buzz.
I just want to say this. Storybook Land always scared me driving by it.
It is scary. There's something about it that's scary. I agree with you.
Yeah.
They were on the Great Christmas Light show, though. Storybook Land.
Okay.
It's a pretty funny show. Anyway.
What's more scary to Russ is pumpkin spice.
Yeah, well,
Remember Without the Buzz, it is just hockey. Enjoy today's game. Enjoy the baseball playoffs if that kind of thing makes you happy. And we'll see you tomorrow.
Go Cardinals.